All right. Welcome to technical session number 40. As we know, as the technical session is above 32, this is 10:02 material. Everything 31 and below is 10:01. Everything 32 and above is 10:02. So today we're going to be talking about mobile operating systems, the three top players at the time: Apple, Android, and Windows. Throughout the course of this technical session, we should be able to describe at a very high level the similarities and differences between mobile operating systems and other operating systems, compare and contrast the most widely used mobile operating systems, including Android, iOS, and Windows, and their most common functions and features. For this particular lab, we want to keep in mind communication, as it is critical since IT is a team sport and we need to be able to communicate effectively and efficiently with our team as well as our customers. And we want to maintain a growth mindset, remembering that our intelligence is not fixed. It is constantly changing, evolving, and growing over time. Like anything, the brain is a muscle. The more we work it, the stronger it becomes. All right, rise of mobile operating systems. Over time, people's expectations and requirements with regards to the mobile devices they carry has grown exponentially. I mean, there actually was a time when you had a mobile device and your only expectation was that you could call and that call would go through. Granted, at that time, you probably had a 50-50 shot whether or not that call actually was gonna go through. But that was our basic expectations of these devices. And then eventually we were able to get text messages. So short bursts of communication completely and utterly destroyed the human language as a whole. But we can now communicate with everybody effectively. And then big genesis, we were allowed to do emails. Oh, that was such a great thing for corporations, not so much for people who worked for them, because now they're working 24/7. But, you know, we were able to talk, text, email. And then the smartphones came out, and we now had access to a huge variety of entertainment, but also an amazing amount of knowledge. Anything we want to know nowadays, we can look it up within seconds. Wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we can stop, look things up, and have that answer almost instantaneously. Absolutely amazing. And now we don't even have to go through the arduous effort of typing it in. We could just do voice to text and just, hey, give me this answer. No problem. We got it. And a lot of this is facilitated through mobile operating systems and the applications that are being built upon them. So these things are great because they are enabling device mobility. We are no longer tethered to cables or to outlets, things like that. There's the continual effort to make it a smooth user experience. Gets better every year, although our expectations grow every year too. And then starting to provide all-in-one capabilities, because the processing power of these mobile devices will rival computers from about 4 or 5 years ago. So we're starting to develop at a faster pace. And going forward, the future seems to be pretty much mobile. And for the average consumer, about 99% of all computing that they need to do in their daily lives can be done on a mobile device. Very rare does somebody actually need to go to a desktop and do some heavy lifting. For the most part, casual usage, entertainment, all that stuff can be done from mobile devices. All right, desktop versus mobile operating systems. Typically, mobile devices predominantly operate off of touchscreens, and desktops operate off of keyboard and mouse interfaces. They do keep trying to add the touchscreen interface to the desktop experience. However, it's much easier to flick your wrist and have the mouse move than to sit there and keep doing this all day and touching your screen. It's a little bit better workout. It's good for the shoulders, I guess, but it's faster and more efficient to go ahead and just use a mouse and have it flick around the screen pretty quickly and easily. Mobile devices have a limited power supply utilizing a rechargeable battery. Those battery lives are getting longer and longer. I mean, there was a time when cell phones in use, you might get 30 minutes, an hour. I mean, nowadays, even with heavy use, you might get 5 to 6 hours out of a lap or out of a mobile device. That's with the screen on, streaming, all that stuff. You may get a very, very long time out of these devices. Mobile devices have limited RAM efficiency because you cannot expand the RAM in mobile devices typically. Laptops you are able to, but tablets, phones, not so much. They do support both cellular and Wi-Fi. And then connectivity protocols they utilize other than Ethernet. All right. Current operating system market share. As you can see, big dog on the block, Android, with a crushing 70.24%. Partially due to its open source coding. Also, iOS, which takes about 24%, is proprietary specifically to one set of devices owned by them, versus Android, which will allow it to be utilized on whoever wants to use that operating system. If Apple wanted to give up on the iOS next week and switch over to Android, they wouldn't have a problem with it. They don't care who has it on their device. They're trying to expand that ecosphere. And then somewhere in the 1.22%, there are unknowns. There's some people out there playing around with some Linux-based operating systems and some others that they're trying to develop. You have Blackberry at 0.02, and then you have a Windows Phone at 0.07. So barely holding on there. And then Symbian at 0.01. So biggest players you work with, Android, iOS, that'll quite literally get you about 98% of the way there. All right. Current operating system releases of smartphones and tablets. So many companies develop mobile device operating systems specifically for their devices, and these are most common operating systems for smartphones and tablets. So you have iOS for the Apple devices, you have Google Android, you have the Windows Phone OS, and then obviously there are the others, HP Web OS, Bada, Migo, Symbian, Blackberry, and then now you're starting to see the rise of some Linux-based systems outside of Android, which are starting to gain some traction. Migo was a mobile operating system. I think it went out, like they stopped supporting it in like 2017, if I'm not mistaken. All right, iOS or Apple iOS, only found on Apple products, built on the same foundation as the desktop OS X, based off of the Unix platform. Closed source software. Technicians, even if you're building applications, you do not have access to the source code. So if you are trying to develop applications for them, you must use the software development kit that is provided by them, or SDK, software development kit, Yes, that is something you want to remember. And register as an Apple developer. So even outside providers, if you're building applications to work on top of it, do not have access to that code. That if you're going to be a developer, Stephen, you must use a software development kit, which is provided by Apple in order to build applications. And you have to register as an Apple developer in order to do so. Next, Google Android. This is built on top of the Linux kernel with the core set of libraries that are written in Java. It is maintained by the Open Handset Alliance, open source, and all technicians have access to all of the code. If you're going to use Linux, that is one of the things that is required of you. If you build your operating system from Linux, you have to share your code so that you can help develop that ecosystem. All right. This is, like we talked about last week, the released versions are named after desserts in alphabetical order, like jelly bean, Kit Kat, lollipop, marshmallow, nougat. I don't know what they're going to do when they get up to Z and beyond that, what they're going to do. We'll see. All right, Windows. Microsoft proprietary operating system, also closed source. So of the big three, laughably, of the three main ones that they talk about, only one is open source, and that is Android. Everybody else is closed source proprietary code. All right, this is based off of the Windows NT kernel, which is kind of a stripped down version of their desktop. So the developers can create mobile applications and provide them on the Windows Store. So, and this was also part of the problem with Windows 8. Windows 8 felt like a stripped down version of an operating system for a desktop. So it felt like it was a downgrade in many cases from 7. And that's part of why people were not happy, because they wanted to have a similar experience across your desktop, tablet and mobile device, have everything, operate essentially the same. Well, unfortunately, you can't soup up the laptops and the phones and the tablets to match a desktop, but you can strip down a desktop to match a tablet or a phone. Yes, Cynthia.
Is the Windows operating system phasing out?
Their operating system?
Yeah, like meaning they're not the operating for the desktop, but the operating system for the phone.
Yes.
Okay.
Like very, very few people utilize that one anymore. Like we just showed, like 0.02, like 0.2% of the market, or 0.02% of the market. And it's not being supported on phones anymore for the most part. So you may have some like extreme cultists who just love the operating system, thought it was the greatest thing ever made, and they will essentially try to keep it alive. But as a whole, Windows itself will not be supporting it. So it'll be individuals trying to keep it going.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like Windows XP. There's some people who just don't want to give it up. They love it. They don't care. They're not gonna step away from it. It was the best Windows ever made. I will argue the most stable. All right. Other mobile operating systems. Oh, I was wrong. MeeGo was 2011, not 2017. So here's the other operating systems that you might run across. I believe we went over this one last week a little bit. You had Blackberry operating system. It was terminated in 2013. Research in Motion was the ones who developed it, and it was almost immune to viruses at the time. Symbian was up until 2012. HP was around, was formerly the Palm Pilot operating system, if anybody remembers Palm Pilots. It's like the first, PDAs or personal digital assistants or something like that. Those were kind of a big thing there for a while, although you had to learn this weird hieroglyphics to be able to actually write in it. It wasn't as natural as, say, it is now when you're using a stylus and things like that. Bada, which was around till about 2014 on Samsung. Migo was replaced by Tizen, which Tizen didn't really gain a foothold in the phone world, but smartphones, tablets, and smart TVs, I think they're making a lot of headway in that particular market. I think they've actually exceeded the 21% at this point. Yes, Glean.
To have a completely different phone system, and what is the likelihood that we would run across any of their systems?
I'm sorry, what?
Doesn't China have their own form of mobile network and mobile platform? And what are the likelihood of us going encountering that?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about like the Huawei 5G towers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, they didn't like those because of the back doors that essentially were innately in them, because there is no such thing as data privacy in China because the way their system is established. So they're trying to keep it out of this particular network, but it is becoming a big thing, say in the UK. Huawei towers and the 5G networks are being developed in Europe. Now, could our technology interact with it? Yes, absolutely. But they have different operating systems being built there. Like I think Tencent's one of the ones that builds some of them. And I know Huawei has one of their own. But, you know, we could have interaction, but as far as them becoming a major foothold in this market, not currently, but that's not to say that that's, you know, never going to happen. It's hard to say something like that, because if somebody has a technology that is like light years ahead of yours, like if they just keep developing it and they're eating our lunch, you know, we may just go like, all right, yeah, bring it in. So depending on, you know, the market forces we have here, that can change. So I don't like to say never ever for situations like that, because things can always change in the future. Nobody has perfect vision as to what's going to happen.
Right.
All right. So devices where these are utilized, you have iOS, which is on the iPhone, iPad, Apple proprietary, of course. Windows Mobile was pretty much only on the Nokias. And then you get over to Android, where you have a much greater variety of devices you can utilize and still be on the same operating system. So Android does offer a lot of versatility. Right. So Apple iOS versus Windows versus Google Android. Here's some of the things we're going to be going over: mobile payment, emergency notification, screen calibration, screen orientation, all that kind of fun stuff we're going to be kind of stepping into real quick. All right, first, open source code versus closed source. As we have discussed a little bit earlier, the only open source of those three is Android. That's it. They allow the developers to have access to the code, whereas Windows and Apple do not. The software is licensed to others for use, but is still kept within the control of the original publisher. Applications. This is where a lot of the fun stuff that we're able to do on the phones themselves come into play. Candy Crush, still amazingly popular today. Still haven't played it. A lot of other things. Do what?
Same here.
So, you know, like there's a lot of applications for productivity, entertainment, banking, health. The versatility of the applications being developed are absolutely amazing. There's now applications for free that you can get if you're having trouble solving a math problem. You can literally take a picture of the math problem, the algorithm solves it and gives you the answer. Take away your kids' mobile phones if you want them to learn math. So You know, none of this stuff was available when we, you know, like when we were coming up. I mean, as soon as kids figure it out, I don't know if you've ever seen there was like a YouTube video on it. There was like a kid, he was working on his math problems and he kept asking Alexa for the answer because it was in the kitchen with him. So he's sitting there doing the math while his mother's in another room working, and he's sitting there like, Alexa, what's 3 times 5? You know, and Alexa's giving him the answer. Then mom walks in right in the middle of it. And of course, you know, he's in big trouble at that point. But point being, it's the applications that bring utility and entertainment and fun to a lot of these devices. And the 3 main stores we have the Windows Store, you have the App Store for Apple, and then you have the Google Play Store for Google. And I think with Android, you can even get third-party ones and not on the store themselves if you want to run that gambit. And sometimes you can do that with Apple, but they're pretty good about locking down stuff like that. So if you get it, it may be viable for a month or 2 until their next update, and then they'll kill it. True, Melinda. Very true. All right, screen orientation. So this is pretty common across the board with mobile devices nowadays. The mobile device can automatically detect how you're holding your screen. I don't know if any of you experience that frustration when you're laying on your side and you're trying to watch something and it keeps flipping the screen the wrong way. So you're trying to, you know, get it to go the way you want. I wish they would just apply a really nice screen lock to it so you can lock the orientation if you wish, but you know, I'm sure they have something out there that'll do that now. But the way the phones are able to determine this is 2 things working in conjunction. There is a gyroscope internally in the phone that can detect what your orientation is. That also helps it know what direction you're pointing with regards to GPS. I don't know if they still have it, but like Apple used to actually have a built-in compass in their iPhones, and you just had to calibrate it real quick, and then it worked just like a regular compass, although I did have some issues with its accuracy. And then on top of that, you have the accelerometer, which can detect its change in velocity, speeding up, slowing down, changing the direction. So with those 2 things, they know what direction the phone is facing, how fast it's moving, and it can utilize a lot of these sensors to do some pretty neat stuff. So Apple has an orientation lock. Good deal. All right. Types of touchscreens. Review time. We have our resistive and capacitive touch. So older devices had that resistive that required periodic calibration, some more frequently than others. I believe as Gleam told us, he had one that had to get calibrated daily almost. And it's based off of pressure. So the calibration allows for greater accuracy, but the whole system is built off of pressure. Where capacitive, they don't necessarily require calibration on a regular basis. When you restart the system, it auto calibrates pretty quickly, and it's operating off of the electromagnetic connectivity of your skin on the screen itself, which is why when you wear gloves, it doesn't quite pick up on it unless you have the special touchscreen enabled gloves, which is a pretty big thing now. If you're going to buy gloves, they always have that right there on the top of the advertisement. All right. Calibration errors occur. Nothing will happen for, when you're moving your finger on the screen. Sometimes if you touch over here, it's registering over here. More common with resistive than capacitive. If you're running across it with a capacitive, you go ahead and just restart it. That tends to fix the issue. Resistive, you need to go through calibration, and that tends to fix it. So the resistive touch tend to have a built-in tool that you can go, go back to, log in, and then you have to go through and it'll say touch here, touch here, touch here, draw a circle. And that will help recalibrate it. The one in the capacitive touch does this automatically upon startup. So you can go in, reboot, and that tends to fix it. Geolocation. We're back to the GPS. So, quick question. Who can tell me where the calculations for where you're located is done? Yes, Cynthia.
I'm actually raised my hand to repeat the question. I'm having a little audio thing.
Okay. So when you're utilizing GPS through geolocation, where is the calculations being made to determine where you're located? So when you turn on your GPS, it says you are here. Where is that information coming from? So where is that calculation being made to determine where you are?
Satellites.
Okay, so we have a vote for satellites. Glean?
Cell tower.
Cell tower?
Yeah, basically,
Okay.
whatever the tower that you're communicating off of, and from that tower, it gives you a link as to where you are.
Well, we're speaking specifically to GPS.
Oh, okay, then it would be a satellite.
So the satellites. So these are okay. Any other guesses? Joseph.
Yes, the longitude and latitude lines are used to are calibrated in such a way that every position on the Earth has a specific address.
Okay.
And once those ones are located based on who is the interest, they can be able to, to point out whatever we want. So the calculation is based on using the longitude and latitude lines.
Correct. So that is correct, yes. But how does it know where you are? DW actually has it in chat.
So your device means line of sight, it pings off the satellites, and then that information gets calculated back in your phone once it receives the pings.
Correct. The GPS receiver in your phone receives the pings from the satellites. Satellites don't do anything but send out pings. And you need to have visibility of at least 3 in order for the receiver to be able to make the calculation to determine exactly where you are. So you need 3 for longitude and latitude, 4th for altitude. Now, there is a GPS assist or augmented GPS where it can utilize the help of cell phone towers like Lean was talking about. So the cell tower gives you an approximation, and then you can use 1 or 2 satellites at that point to get, an assisted longitude and latitude location. Very helpful in the cities. Also in the devices, you have a magnetometer. Allows the device to sense magnetic fields, acting essentially like a compass. So you're able to locate magnetic north. Although I think I read that magnetic north is actually in flux at the moment. So something like in the next 15, 20 years, we might see what's called a polar reversal. All right, geo tracking and geotagging. So geo tracking, so iOS and Android record the location of the device periodically and send this information to a central location. This is a controversial issue as some users feel it is a violation of their rights. And it's not just them. Obviously, many app developers also like to track your, locations and stuff like that, especially if you're going to one of their stores or one of their competitor stores. They would like to know that stuff. So geo-tracking, yes, is a very, very controversial thing. There is a lot of conversation going around data privacy right now. European Union even has certain things they're putting into place, like the right to be forgotten, that they're trying to institute to protect some of their, members, especially for, people who are under 18 versus when they come over 18. Next, you have geotagging. Uses similar information to add location information to various forms of media, such as photos taken. This is like, so whenever you take a photo, it embeds what's called metadata into that photo as well, that tells your specific location, date, and time the photos were taken. This is used quite a lot in investigative cases. So, also, it has some positive uses, like if you're someone like me who tends to forget, where you park your car, especially if you're doing it at an airport or something like that. If you're in a big parking lot and you get out of your car, you can quite literally drop a geotag right there, and then you can go off to where you go, and then you can pull up your map later, pull up that geotag, and then you walk you straight to your car. And then the problem becomes if your car is not there when you get back. But other than that, at least you know where your car was. So that is a case of geotagging. There's also something called geofencing, which you can draw lines around geographic areas. This is pretty heavily used in logistics, so that we know when drivers arrive and leave certain locations, so that we don't have to try to track them down or things like that. We can literally pull up, do a ping on them, and then it'll tell us have they entered into the customer's lot or exited the customer's lot. And that gives us in and out times and things like that. So there are nice uses for it. And there's also security uses for it. Like if you only want people being able to access certain information at certain locations, then the geotagging or the geofencing feature comes in real handy, because they have to be within that sphere in order to be able to access that information. Next, Wi-Fi calling. It's kind of similar to voice over IP, but it is wireless. Now it's kind of extending your data over to your voice side, utilizing your 802.11 connection to your particular network. 802.11 is the IEEE standard for wireless devices. We will be getting into that in pretty heavy detail next week, I believe on Monday. So when it is functioning properly, you don't necessarily notice. It kind of does a nice seamless handoff. Doesn't always work that way. There's a lot of times where it'll kind of just kill your call as it's trying to switch over, and you just have to recall and reconnect, which can be frustrating depending on who you're talking to. Questions so far? All right. So next, launcher versus GUI. So
Kelly?
yo.
Yeah, Stephen has an interesting question in the chat. Go ahead, Stephen.
I said every time I post a photo on Instagram, is that considered geotagging?
The photo itself will have geotagging within it. That metadata will be uploaded with your photo.
Damn.
Yeah. You turn that stuff off.
Oh, you can turn it off?
Yes. There are ways to do it. Now, whether that actually does turn it off, we'll see. But yeah, you are able to actually turn that stuff off if you wish. You can tell your, especially on digital cameras and stuff, you can tell it not to capture metadata, which is kind of a nice feature too. All right, so launcher. When you first turn your phone on and you have that screen, that has all the applications on it that you're going to go into, be it your phone or your music or, banking or all that stuff. That basic screen that has all those applications on it, that is called the launcher. And that's where you're able to locate and start up all your programs at that. And they are GUI based. And originally you can only put the original icon on there. Now both Android and Apple allow you to create folders, because people were collecting apps. And as we like to be digital hoarders, we want to be able to hold more and more and more applications on that phone. So Android allows you to personalize your launcher utilizing many different kinds, depending on your, personality. You can pick different themes, all that kind of fun stuff. Apple, they want everything to look and feel the same. So basically you can change the background picture. That's it, unless you jailbreak the phone, in which case your warranty is voided, but you do have more accessibility to the phone. Virtual assistants, AKA government listening device. I'm kidding, kind of. All right. So virtual assistance programs built into the device that can assist you in looking up information. Apple had Siri. They were one of the first to market on this and came out pretty strong, and it was going really good. However, as they don't allow developers access to this stuff, they don't like it being able to interact with a lot of things. It quickly lost a huge amount of functionality. Android has their, OK Google or Hey Google or whatever it is. And this one is pretty much the top dog right now with regards to virtual assistants. And then Windows has Cortana. And I've never actually had a lot of interaction with Cortana, so I cannot speak to its functionality. So, yeah, there is Alexa. That's not really a mobile device, though. Alexa is more built into the Amazon ecosphere. Although that one does have a lot of uses too. Alexa or Cortana's nosy. Me personally, I turn all these off. Like I have one of the Amazon Alexa stations or whatever, but I quite literally only plug that thing in like a couple times a year. The rest of the time is literally unplugged and put away. It was a gift to me from somebody, but like around Christmas time, if you have young kids, the young kids on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve can be like, hey, Santa, or hey, Alexa, where's Santa? They have a thing called the Santa tracker, and it'll tell you like where, the NORAD, it's linked to the NORAD tracking, and it tells you, where Santa's flying over that day and stuff like that. So it's kind of, it's cute for little kids. Yes, Karen.
They were just saying on the news where people were upset about Alexa, and they were trying to sue them because of the use of the name Alexa. People are, like people talking about people being Karens, but it was saying the use of the name Alexa is making people change their name from Alexa.
Well, I mean, you could change the name on the device too. You can call it Echo.
That's what the thing was. That's what the news was saying. It was saying that the report was saying you could change the name of the device.
Yeah.
But it's just a thing. People talking about the name of the use of the name Alexa.
True. I mean, well, think about, was it after was it Game of Thrones? Like for the first 4 seasons, there was a whole bunch of kids being named Khaleesi and Daenerys and all that stuff. And then they saw the final season. They're like, oh my gosh, my kid's named this, So I mean, it's
think about how I feel when people talking about people being a Karen. So, I'm just it got kind of old fast.
I got you.
On that topic, are you trying to say something, Kelly? Because my daughter's name is Arya.
Arya?
Yeah, I named her after definitely Arya Stark.
Well, there you go. What I'm saying is pop culture can change our perceptions of the names that we use. Like what was funny was like there was a steep decline in kids being named Jamie after Game of Thrones. You know, and that was a quite popular name prior to that. So it's kind of interesting like how the pop culture will do it. So, but Arya was an interesting character, but again, with Game of Thrones, I don't really give it much stock after season 4 because that's where the author stopped.
Nah, he made 5 books. Season 5 was still.
Oh yeah, there's Winds of Winter. Or no, Winds of Winter isn't out yet. What was it?
No, Dance of Dragons.
Dance of Dragons. There you go. Winds of Winter is supposed to be the next one if it ever comes out. It's only been about 9 years since the last book. So yeah, I started reading the Game of Thrones series back in early 2000, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's a good series. I recommend it. All right. What's really funny is if you're on a situation like this and you know somebody has one of these particular devices. I tried doing it to one of the students last time, but they were still in the room, so they heard me say it and they were able to cancel it. And you can say like, set an alarm for 3 a.m. with horror movie noises or something like that, so they'll wake up to like screaming and stuff like that. It's really kind of a mean prank to play on somebody, but the student last cohort heard me say it, so he was able to turn it off before it happened. All right. Next, so we have development kits. You have SDK versus APK. SDK, software development kits, particularly used by Apple. And then you have ADKs, which is application development kits, which these are tools provided to third-party developers to assist in the development of applications that will run with Apple and Android. SDK goes with Apple, ADK goes with Android. Windows Mobile can have apps developed on the 8.1 desktop utilizing Visual Studio. That is the one that they particularly use at the time of this A+. One of the main causes of the phone not to gain more popularity has been having enough development people on their system. Because if you have to basically rewrite the code for each system you're going to be on, there has to be enough people on there to make it worth your while to actually adjust to that code, which is why you see a whole lot of stuff for Android and Apple, not so much for Windows. With regards to gaming, a lot of people who use Mac aren't big gamers. So gaming companies don't portal that stuff over typically to the Mac platform. So it's almost strictly a Windows thing. So it's time value of money. How much money are we going to get back on this if we actually put forth this effort in order to making it accessible on these other applications? So Android can be created on Windows, Mac, and Linux using the Android Software Developers Kit or Android Studio. Once they're created, they can be distributed in a standard format called the AAP, or excuse me, the APK, which is the Android Application Package, APK. If you've ever heard somebody use the term, sideloading APKs, that's essentially what they're doing is you're loading up applications without the use of the Google Play Store. All right, emergency notification. I'm sure at least once in your life you have been woken up at 3 a.m. with this screeching noise from your phone for various notifications. It could be extreme weather warnings. It could be local emergencies, amber alerts, silver alerts, presidential alerts during national emergencies, all that kind of fun stuff. Thankfully, they don't test the systems at 2 to 3 a.m. like they used to on the televisions. But we are all probably very familiar with these. Lastly, mobile payment services. This way, we can leave our wallets at home, maybe, except for maybe your driver's licenses, I don't know. And essentially you can load up your card payments onto your mobile phone and use that as a form of payment method. Samsung has their own one, which is the Samsung Pay, Apple Pay for iOS, and Google Pay for the Android, utilizing the NFC communication. Most major retailers now have a reader that can pick up on it. For a while there, it was like either they would do one or the other. They wouldn't do both. So you might have some outlets would do Google Pay, some would do Apple, but rarely they did both. Now you're starting to see both being adopted for ease of use at this point. And it is relatively secure. Instead of giving your credit card number to the retailer itself, it gives a one-time code valid for only that payment. So it actually does make it harder for your credit card information to be stolen in that process. They're going to start doing driver's. I don't know how. I don't think I am cool with that. They're starting to go to that unified application to kind of be able to. You have to have the one app to do it all. I don't know if I like that.
Apple Wallet.
No,
Is it
I'm not.
Apple
No, it's not
Wallet?
just. Well, no, Apple will do it for your payment devices. I'm talking about. Melinda just said they're about to do it for driver's licenses too, where you keep your driver's license on there as well.
Yeah, they're working on that here in Atlanta.
I don't I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not really cool with that. I kind of, certain things I like them to have to work for it.
Yeah, it's got to be something real secure before I buy into.
Yeah, well, but even then, when you're talking about centralizing everything into a single location, that's where I start having problems. When you start centralizing everything together, like all your medical advice, all your medical stuff, all your financials, all your driver's license, like all that, you start putting all that into a singular location. Security wise, I do not like that.
Yeah.
All right. Questions, comments? Yes, Cynthia.
Yeah, I agree with you both. I don't like centralization. I personally myself, I like blockchain technology.
For the
it's still in the
DeFi.
yeah, I'm into DeFi. I like I know it's in its infancy state, but it's getting a bit better, and Ethereum is doing a lot better for as far as like the eco-friendly aspect of things, because it takes a lot of power. But I feel like moving away from centralization apps and really developing certain applications, I think for health and for personal use, blockchain is excellent. It's something
I agree. And there is a lot of promise for that technology, but again, like I was saying, it's the centralization of all that stuff that worries me.
Yeah, definitely.
Overwhelmingly.
I'm with you. I'm definitely with you, like 110%, without a doubt.
Yeah, and blockchain does offer a lot of really great things, especially like with banking. We're now starting to see blockchain being utilized to make people be their own banks. You don't have to rely, on these larger, corporations to hold on to your money. Let's see, the metaverse being mentioned in there. I actually prefer the Fediverse, which is a decentralized group of social media and things like that, where essentially you follow individuals across multiple platforms. It makes you uncancelable, and you can't be brought down by somebody else. You can maintain your own. So that is actually,
and also blockchain is doing security as well. So it's not like, even though like it's better by itself away from centralization, but there's actually certain apps that I won't name them now, but because I don't want to digress, but they actually are doing security as well, because even though blockchain is it's decentralized and still has to be part of a central network for the communication to happen, it still can be hacked into. So now you have mathematicians that are actually using algorithmic blockchain apps to make sure those particular apps are secure. But again, the inverse to that is that you can create algorithms that can counteract that security. So, you know,
it's a perpetual arms race when you're talking about cybersecurity.
For sure.
And the crazy thing is some of the stuff about security is counterintuitive, where you would think an open source security method where they basically share the code for the security methods would be less secure than a closed source one, but actually the inverse is true, because you have them sharing the code where everybody is testing it and pushing against it. So it is significantly more robust, instead of having essentially a groupthink cybersecurity method created, which really isn't tested from the outside, and all it takes is one creative hacker to bypass it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have to admit, like I get goose pimples thinking about cybersecurity. It's a field that I'm like forever gonna be like growing in. I already know that for a fact.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in that field, especially now. So I'm with you there.
I'll see you there, brother. I know you're already ahead of the game, but right behind you.
Always welcome more people into that field. All right, so now we should be able to describe at a very high level some of the similarities and differences between mobile operating systems. We're looking at it more from a definitional standpoint, understanding who goes with what, and then compare and contrast some of the most widely used operating systems, including Android, iOS, and Windows. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints? Everybody's very active in chat today.